You don't need to be a tech person to care about cybersecurity.
It's more than just about protecting networks, it's ultimately about protecting people.
The human factor in cybersecurity often gets neglected, and we are here to bridge that gap.
Are you ready to get lost in Siberia with us? Welcome back to another episode of Lost in Siberia. We're your hosts, Annie-Mei.
And Annika?
And today we've got a special guest on the show. We've got Jadon Cruz Montero, who I actually met at an after party at DEFCON last year when I was in Vegas. And we happened to be sitting near each other, although I can't actually remember how we actually started talking to each other. But I remember maybe it was one of your friends or someone who worked at your company gave me some cool stickers, one of which is still on my laptop today. So Jadon runs the startup Maro, which is based in New York. So welcome to the show, Jadon.
Thank you, and great to see you guys again. I do remember how we met, actually. It was.
Do you do?
I do remember. It was that I've been trying to order a beer for like 30 minutes, and it was packed. Also, I should say this was like a cybersecurity after party. This wasn't like we met at like like Encore or something, or like a club.
It was an after party. Yep.
This is a like a DEFCON after party, and I was trying to order a beer for like 30 minutes. And then I think, Annie-Mei, you and a coworker were there, and I was like, "Hey, can you guys help me? Like, maybe have more aura, maybe have more presence or something. Order beer." And I think you and your coworker ordered in like 15 seconds.
That
So I
sounds
was
about
like,
right.
yeah. I was like, I don't even know if they can see me. I'm not tall enough to make it through this hacker crowd. To get the beer.
Yeah.
So
You're
thank
missing
you.
you're missing the Aussie accent. That's why you weren't getting served.
That's it. That's it. That's the best explanation. But thank you guys for having me on. Excited to talk through some things.
So, Jadon, nice to have you on. Thank you for joining us. We haven't met yet, so just this morning or this afternoon for you. For our listeners, do you want to tell us how you got into cybersecurity?
Oh, wow. How I got into it. So I was actually in college. I was studying humanities at Yale. And I was in this program that was like an intensive kind of like read the entire Western canon in a year kind of class. So the only thing I did was actually I was studying Chinese at the same time. So I was studying Chinese, and then I was just reading supposedly every important book in our Western civilization's history. And I had no idea what I was doing there. I was like, what do I do with these books? Am I supposed to like comment? Why would I comment when it feels like, you know, millions of people have already commented in the past far smarter than I? Like, what value am I adding? And so I felt really disconnected from the curriculum. And then the second thing was, I remember one time I was in a seminar and that question was raised, like, what is the point of this? And the professor said, one day you're going to be at a cocktail party and you're going to know exactly what everyone's talking about. And I can report now, like, decades later, that is true. And there's a connection to Maro, the company, which I'll discuss later. But the reason I bring up the story is because I think where that left me as a person is I felt really disconnected from the modern world. And I guess one way to think about that is we were already entering like a very hyper real world, right? Like we spend most of our time online. Cyber had always been attractive because it felt like a never ending game, an asymmetric game. And I kind of love the problems where it's like, this is real because you have people on the other side trying their best, incentivized to hack you and to hack your companies. And so I made a really hard pivot to just pure math and computer science after that. And
Whoa.
basically,
Okay.
yeah. And then the rest of my time was just pure cybersecurity. I took every class I could. And then I ended up working for a cybersecurity startup. And then that was it. I was like hooked. Our profession loves like obsessive people. And I think wanting to kind of fight a never ending game, and because you can just keep learning forever. Those are the reasons that I ended up falling in love with cybersecurity. How about you guys?
Yeah. Well, I didn't make as hard of a pivot, but when I was at university, I started off. I was actually talking about this the other day with a few people from work because I was so surprised when I said that I actually started my university degree getting into the School of Music, doing classical piano and Asia Pacific studies. And they were like, how did you end up in cybersecurity?
No, same for me. Well, I guess I did law before and I really didn't like it. I think I can connect with what you're saying, Jadon, about things not necessarily being real. And And yeah, things just didn't feel like there was a lot of sense to them. I wanted to study like how people think and
Yeah.
how do criminals think.
Yeah.
And so I did a cybersecurity and a criminology degree, and I also started working in cyber in the same time. But yes, can definitely connect to what you're saying.
That's incredible. Actually, one thing Annie-Mei didn't mention also is the thing we met at was actually a cognitive security after party thrown by the wonderful Cognitive Security Institute. Yeah, it was.
I just went through the list of after parties and was like, which one sounds the most interesting?
I mean, that's funny.
I think didn't they do a live podcast show at that after party? Now that I remember, I think they did, didn't they?
I don't know. I think I was just trying to get a beer the whole time. But,
Yeah.
but no, I think that's definitely, I know one thing you and I have talked about anyway, is like kind of that human element, and cool to hear, Erica, from your perspective. I think one of the best things about our industry, and Annie-Mei, I saw you posted about this last week. Like, I love that almost everyone in cyber has come from a different life, different paths. We don't have a ton of people who are like, I did this when I was growing up. We do have some folks like that, obviously, like hacking away at the age of 9 or 10. But that wasn't everyone's path. And there's always, I think, some way to bring your past experience into cyber, because again, it just rewards people that want to learn more, regardless of where they started from.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, it is one of those industries you were saying before about how love obsessive people. And I think that's so true because, yeah, everyone in cyber, now that I think about it, like the real cyber people, who really want to be there. Yeah, we're so into it.
It makes sense. Like Annika, like you were saying, like I think there's something direct about it in a world that's very fake. Like, we know the stakes, we know what we're up against, and that creature keeps evolving like on a daily basis. That feels really real to me. So it's fun.
It's kind of like people on Reddit that are anonymous, but in a way they're the most real people because you know that they are being themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about this. And AI is like, it turns out it's like 60% trained on Reddit. So
that's right. Yeah.
So I feel like that's disappearing too, but there is something, you're right. It's like that was for a long time, I think, our only source of realness was the anonymous strangers that were like reviewing their obsessive hobbies.
Yeah.
Get so the rest of us know what to buy. So.
Yeah.
So talk about how you ended up. So you ended up in cybersecurity after pivoting from reading books. Essentially, being able to have a conversation at a cocktail party.
Yeah.
How did you and then how did you end up starting your own business, and what was the motivation behind that?
Okay, first of all, I love that you said reading books with such disdain, but
I also like reading books.
Yeah, coming from here, that was unexpected.
Yeah. Wait, is that a real bookshelf behind you?
Yeah, that's real.
Oh, I thought that was like one of those backgrounds from Zoom.
It goes around, Jadon. It goes around the whole room. The whole
oh my God.
bookshelf.
Yeah. So you're still pivoting from reading books, I guess.
Okay. I will never pivot from reading books.
Wow. So how did I end up starting a company? Well, so I'd mentioned I was basically still in school. And even when I was studying computer science, I felt like, okay, there's still something. I still feel a little disconnected, to be honest. It was like all theoretical, right? And I loved C. That was really fun. Like programming in C was very fun. And like operating systems was probably my favorite thing. What does it look like to actually build cybersecurity products, I guess, was the question. I was taking a lot of classes around cyber warfare. And I was like, yeah, but this doesn't get deep enough to let me know how the battle's actually being conducted. So I ended up actually just cold messaging a bunch of startups in Boston at the time. And there was kind of a boon of cybersecurity startups out of Cambridge. And this was like, I guess, in the 2010s. And a salesperson saw my message pop up because like this is supposed to be for customers, right? So he saw my message come up and it was like, hello, I have not written a single line of code, but I do know cybersecurity and I know pseudocode really well. And I'm looking for an internship. And he thought it was so funny that he took it to the founder and was like, hey, should we hire this person that doesn't know anything, but wants to get into cybersecurity? And so I did. I worked for a company called ThreatStack that later got acquired by F5. There were only a couple people there at the time. And my first day, I was like carrying water jugs. And I don't know if I ever shipped a valuable piece of code, but I learned so much about the way that the battles actually fought. And in particular, honestly, that technology was really early. It was like early cloud security stuff. It was like host intrusion detection, but ported to the cloud. And no one even knew that this would be necessary in 5 years when everyone actually moved to the cloud. So it was such an incredible time. And I was so hooked that I was like, I'm going to drop out of school and be a cybersecurity startup person forever. Was advised against that, almost did it for a semester. But then I basically had the next 10 years, I was learning, I was working for other startups, I was working for bigger companies, but always I think in the back of my mind, I was like, this is really what I want to do, is be on the cutting edge. Like, I feel like in my heart, that's the best way to contribute to the asymmetric fight, again, that we're all kind of engaging in. So I guess a lot of specifics I could get into, but that's kind of in broad strokes. I always kind of knew that this is where I'd be the most useful.
I know, Annie-Mei, you also work for a startup, and maybe that's what you've talked about. You had it in common after you had a beer. This seems to be honestly quite exciting. I'm thinking myself of trying to join a startup and maybe work with them for a bit. But you also talked about cognitive security and the cognitive security party that you were at. Did you want to tell our listeners, maybe in kind of plain English, what cognitive security is and how do you see it in the context of cybersecurity?
Yeah, wow. Well, so what I'll say is, I think I'm the kind of person that one of my pet peeves is when new things are announced in the world, like particularly companies or products or whatever. And, we just keep making synonyms for things that have been invented in the past. And that's how the world works, right? Like better marketing, better categorization, better labeling wins. But I think one thing that had bothered me was we were looking for a way to describe what my current company is doing. And we knew that we wanted to align what Maro does to a long history of people studying and researching and adding a ton of time and effort into being able to merge essentially what is like behavioral and cognitive science with cybersecurity. And I think what really made it click was rewind 2 years ago. And just for some very, very quick context, what we'd hoped to solve was the problem of mostly cyber attacks being things that targeted people, even though we keep creating new technologies. I've worked with tons of startups that are creating new technologies. The merging of the two fields is super interesting, right? Let's take, I don't know, phishing or something like that. And if we just analyze that as a purely technical problem, we would evaluate it like, okay, well, phishing emails have malicious links in them. We know that they come from domains that are a little suspicious. And also they don't pass SPF checks or something like that, right? Or DMARC. That's the way we've been doing products for a long time. The new world is weird though, right? Because today I could be talking to who I think is Annie-Mei for like 5 months and then realize, oh my God, this is just a Claude wrapped by an attacker. And so how are we in this new world going to protect our human brains that are very, very susceptible to these kinds of tactics? We can't look for a link in the email. We can't look for a hash of like a malicious script or something like that. And so to me, seeing the rise of AI as a way to, on two sides, one, to benefit the way attackers do their jobs. On the other side, what about the way we're all using AI? These are both kind of rife with these problems of us as humans being like, how do we deal with these new technologies? How do our brains respond to them? So I'll pause there for a second because I think cognitive security, roughly speaking, just means how do we take the field of understanding the way our brains process things, and then how do we make sure that that's implicit in the way we build cybersecurity products, as opposed to like assuming human brains are not part of the equation. It's always been the biggest part of what leads to data breach. But I'm curious, like how you guys see that.
I think the thing I still struggle with, especially in big organizations too, particularly government, I think, because they're so slow to change. So I think, when it comes to things like cognitive security, that human factor, it's still not really seen as important until it's mandated. So for example, in our protective security framework, it only came in about 2 years ago that a government organization was required to have a insider threat team, which is kind of insane when you think about the fact that, you're dealing with defense, you're dealing with very sensitive information. It's kind of just seen as an afterthought, right? And even when it's brought in.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, AI has changed the way that we have to think about how we trust someone. AI is still not seen as an insider threat, but it's probably now the biggest insider threat. So, I think from what I've seen, it's really important, but it's the human factor is still not seen as the most important or what we should be focusing on.
I think it's just wild that we know the statistics that most cyber attacks are caused by social engineering, not faults with products and technology, but a lot of focus goes on products and technology, which is good, I guess, Jadon, as well for you when you were making products as a primary, thing in decade ago, which was good. And it's very important to understand the technology and continuously understand the technology behind
Mm.
it. For me, like I wanted to study cyber criminology because I wanted to also understand both the victimology part of it. So like how do people get victimized online, but then also how do criminals think? And I think it's wild what you mentioned, Annie-Mei, about insider threat, because cybercrime is very similar to white collar crime when we're looking at trends. So people don't like a lot. There are some people that commit cybercrime when they're young, kind of like punk age, to be cool, to be edgy, and then they kind of stop. But a lot of people that commit very serious cyber crimes are actually insiders. They're people who have access to information, you know, and they're the ones that exfiltrate it. And so, yeah, I agree with the sentiment that it's not being considered quite seriously yet, but we are here to do everything to make sure it happens.
Make sure it does.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great point. I love that you guys asked about cognitive security because, to be honest with you, it's not a thing, right? That I think the broader market, I'll put it that way, cares about. And when we talk to our customers, or the way we found our customers, they love to hear about the why or the how, right? Hey, we're built on cognitive security. But really, the central issue that I think everyone's thinking about right now is not cognitive security. It's how do people factor into the, like you guys both said, right? How do we factor into a world where we're all using and misusing AI tools, and we're being targeted by adversaries equipped with AI tools? I guess one way to think of it, we never even figured out really how to stop humans from being responsible for 60 to 80% of data breaches. And then now everyone's got agents. So what does cognitive security mean in that context? It starts to mean like, how do you protect people and the AI that they use on behalf of themselves, which has been fascinating.
I'm interested as well from a sales perspective. When you sell the product, and especially if you're looking to get this into other organizations, because people are focused on the tools and the processes, less so on the people. So how do you market that to them if you say, oh, this is based on cognitive security, and they're like, huh?
Yeah. So it's an awesome question, and I'll take you behind the curtain, so to speak. The real answer is we don't market it. I mean, we don't sell it, I guess you should say, right? Well, to take a step back, I didn't even describe what Maro is. Maro is a security buddy, like a co-pilot that rides on the shoulder of your employees, and as they just go throughout their work days, it helps make sure that they're following your company's policies. An example of this is like you're about to put company data into Claude. That's not an approved company tool. We'll make sure that we can pull the sensitive data out for you before you send the message. Another example, as you guys are well aware, is, hey, this LinkedIn message you got from Annika talking about the podcast this week and saying, hey, wire me $10,000 before we get on the podcast, which you didn't do, right? That's not a real thing. That's, hey, here's the psychological techniques or tactics that are being deployed against you, and maybe you want to take a pause. So with that in mind, I think for our customers, it's not really about cognitive security. That's a thing the three of us can nerd out about for a long time, probably. But it's about the outcomes. And I think, to your point, cybersecurity people right now, I think a challenge is they're focused on how do we secure AI, right? Whereas the rest of the business is like, no. The question is, how do we use AI and beat our competitors, right? And so this is, honestly, Maro's landing at a time where a lot of our users value us for the ability to help employees use AI safely. And that's not, again, related to, it's a new world. It's not necessarily a particularly cybersecurity related play. That being said, obviously cybersecurity teams get a lot of value out of the tool like Maro.
And also, I guess cybersecurity world is expanding and changing.
Yes.
So this is the future.
Yeah. Do you see that as an opportunity for cyber leaders?
Yes, 100%. I think with AI, when we were talking about the risk of AI maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and we were talking about the fact that your data governance needs to be really strong. You have to have really good organizational practices around data security. And let's be honest, we had a lot of things happening before that as well. So like we started moving a lot of things into the cloud, and then a lot of companies can't move everything into that. So they remain hybrid. So everything is kind of everywhere. And it's hard to do data governance on a really large scale and to do it really well. So of course, this is a great opportunity to do it on an individual level. If you can do it on an individual level and protect the people from exfiltrating sensitive data, then to the AI tools, whether they are approved tools or shadow IT or.
I think that's something we stumbled into, to be honest, and it's great. It's kind of cool validation, or interesting that you went in the data governance direction, because I think what we realized is everyone's so obsessed with running all work through large language models right now. But I think the way we built Maro was always, we wanted to make sure that the privacy of the user was respected first. And so we've always kind of built on top of small language models. But turns out another benefit of this is that small language models give you not just privacy, but the added benefit of understanding context before figuring out if data is sensitive or not. And so one of the biggest selling points is one way to put it, but one of the things I think we're proudest of with Maro is the new world of data loss prevention is something that gets applied on an individual basis. Like there's a difference between you, Annie-Mei, typing some sensitive information about this podcast or your finances or something into Claude than a different person at your organization or me doing that, right? As a partner or something like that. And so I think for a long time, we've wanted something that could be contextual, that could be applied on an individual basis where interventions are also applied to the individual and not an entire org. And it's been a blast building that. So it's a cool angle. I really agree.
Also, people should know that Maro is a little cartoon character as well, right? I mean, when you were showing me, it kind of reminded me of Clippy from growing up with Word.
Yeah, man, I probably have some stickers like the one you received lying around somewhere. Yes, Maro is a little anthropomorphic flame, and the goal is that Maro can kind of illuminate the way for our users as they traverse the digital hellscape, as we say.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been to a lot of conferences and I've spoken to a lot of tech guys, and a lot of the time when you meet someone who runs a business and they tell you about their product, I go, oh, okay. I'm like nodding my head going, yeah, like not really interested. But when you were like telling me about yours, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's actually quite a cool idea. Like, like most of the time I'm just going, nodding my head, like waiting for them to stop.
Oh my God. Well, I'm very glad to hear I passed that incredibly high bar. But what I will show you also is I would have to run to get the sticker. Can you see this? This is it. This is Maro for you, Annika.
Oh my God.
I don't know how old the inside memes we made about fried chicken, because we were a fried chicken loving company, already have higher ranking than our actual logo, but this is
really? Actually, we should talk about your obsession with food, Jadon, because when I was in New York, you took me and Sakar, my friend, on a really fun, and also some of your friends too, on a really fun food tour around Flushing in Queens. And I'd never actually been to Flushing before, so that was an experience for me. And I saw you were doing a food tour for RSA conference as well in San Fran. So yeah, did you have some good food there?
I suppose this is like a little bit like mixing passion with work, right? Because otherwise, a week-long conference, as you and I have talked about in the past, can be totally soul-killing. But I think the goal is, or like, first of all, this is what I would do if I were in San Francisco or a different city, right? Like I would pick a dish that I'm obsessed with, and then be like, I need to eat every version of that dish across the restaurants that have that in this area, so I can figure out like what the best version of it is. A little bit of that obsessiveness thing. Sorry, is that weird, Annika? I don't know if this is like coming up like a serial killer or something.
Oh, this is market research. I like it.
So as an example, I love salt and pepper squid. Actually, when I was in Sydney, that was my goal. I was like, and Chinatown was in a rough spot, I think, because COVID had just kind of lifted COVID restrictions.
Oh,
and I was like,
okay.
as easy as I can. But I think like that's my obsession. I think then the way I return that obsession to other people, and I appreciate that you appreciated it, was like, here's what I learned along the journey. And we found more than just squid. And I feel like for cybersecurity professionals, you actually learn more about each other and get deeper into like what the challenges are that we're all dealing with when you're seated in one place talking about a vendor for the next hour and a half. So that was super fun. And I'm trying to do, as you mentioned, like more of those, because I personally have a good time. I hope everyone else has a good time at like Food Coma after, which is like the best day you can ask for, right? I don't know.
I think I said to you in New York that you should charge people. It's a pretty good food tour.
If they're going to have a food tour and talk about cyber, this is going to be such a marketing shift for that.
Yeah, well, remember Annika when we interviewed my old manager a month or so ago, and I had listened to him on a podcast where he had spoken about how him and his wife love to make slow cooked Mexican dishes and even make the tortillas from scratch. And then we were kind of joking that we should have like a 8-hour long podcast where we cook slow cooked Mexican pork.
Oh my God, that's awesome. there's always the risk we come off like Mark Zuckerberg, that famous like smoking meats video.
I don't think I've seen it. What is
Oh
it?
gosh. Oh gosh. You have to see that. He's smoking meats for like 4 hours live streaming, and like every 10 seconds he's just like, here I am smoking meats. So as long as we don't come off like lizard people, I think it'll be good. But I'm totally down. Fatty pork cooking for 8 hours. I'm very, very in.
I can just imagine it. It's like cyber and snacks or something like that.
We need to tell Annika about FishCon.
That's the real plug we should be making today.
Yeah.
We need your help, Annika. We need your help.
Okay.
So we
Are we fishing or are we fishing? I don't.
It is fishing with the PH,
Yes.
but it is also fishing with a F.
Oh,
And to be clear, I don't know how to fish. I feel like it's a good opportunity to drink beer and sit around, is what it sounds
and
like.
eat fish.
And eat fish. I will cook and eat I will gut and cook and eat the fish, but I will not. I don't think I'll be good at catching them. But the plan is to get a bunch of people out there to fish after a major conference to kind of reboot the soul. But Annika, the rule is there's not allowed to be any talk about work. No vendor pitches. No.
that sounds really exciting.
We came up with the idea last year after DEFCON, and we thought it would be a cool thing to run after DEFCON because everyone's in Vegas. But we wouldn't be fishing in Vegas because I don't think it's a great place to fish.
I think you know this Annie-Mei, right? You know I grew up in Las Vegas, and
Yeah.
we used to fish sometimes out of Lake Mead, excuse me. But the you don't want to eat anything out of there. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think we'd chosen Cape Cod as where to go.
yes.
Also, the name itself kind of says it's a good place to fish.
It does. It feels. Wait, Annika, do you know how to fish?
No.
Okay,
No,
great.
I'm sorry. But I can entertain.
Well, we've got one friend who knows how to fish. He said he's fairly good at fly fishing, Jadon?
I think so. I don't really know the differences, but I don't think he's fairly good. I think he's like amazing, right?
Well, we'll have to see about that.
I think he's award-winning, is what he said. I'm not sure.
Award-winning?
You don't win awards for fish? I don't know.
I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. I don't know any awards for fishing off the top of my head.
There must be awards for fishing. How many confused cybersecurity criminals do you think go to those awards every year?
There's a lot of fish, but not much fishing going on.
When you said fishing, you meant fishing. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like 90% of this concept is just the pun.
Yeah.
And the last 10% is drinking and sitting around.
Yeah, but I think we do need to make this happen. If we don't have, if it doesn't happen this year, it has to happen next year. Oh, you still
There you go. Annika, join us.
Okay. Yeah.
I can send you the link.
That's Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart.
AI suggestion when I made the I didn't source the pic, but I was happy that it arrived.
That's great. It's so random. I love it.
We've got a few people that have confirmed. Well, they said they're going to come. There was one guy actually, it was really funny. I met him he's friends with the other guy that we interviewed last year, Annika. He's friends with Ray.
Right.
He's also part of BlazeCon. I can't remember if you met him, Jadon, but I ran into him. Do you remember that day when your friend Andy took Sakar and I to that other conference after party in New York, and we didn't even go to the conference, and we rock up and that guy who's friends with Ray's there, and I'm like, what? I was like, wow, this world's way too small. And then I was like, you should come to FishCon.
Yeah, actively recruiting. Something tells me if Annika joins the planning team, this will actually happen. Though she looks skeptical.
I will do my best. I've never been to Las Vegas or Cape Cod, but I'm sure this will figure it out.
It's
Are you
always
planning to come to the conferences in the US this year?
Yeah, I think this has been a long kind of dream of mine. And every time I'm thinking about it, the world does something insane. I'm still considering it. A lot of places I want to go. I have this bucket dream of doing a true crime tour around the US, but I want to do it I want to do it with like a cyber element as well.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and have it more like, do some maybe videos about it and talk about it, and yeah.
You're talking like the places where serial killers lived, or like
Yeah, that was the original idea that I had like
Oh,
5-6 years ago, and then as I was going through like into cyber and studying cyber criminology and so on, I was like, oh, I want to go and visit a few other places, and then where cyber criminals started their careers, like Kevin Mitnick's hometown, uh, you know, places like this.
Who's your favorite US criminal?
I think I got into cybersecurity because of the Silk Road.
The Silk Road.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like the online community.
the dark web market.
drug
Dark
platform.
web.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I
I thought we were doing like a Mongol Silk Road reference.
A
I was
literal
like,
yeah, the actual Silk Road.
Annie-Mei actually studied, classical.
Yeah, I was obsessed. Like I listened to the true crime, I think Case Files, which is an Australian show, and he did like a 3-episode expose on him. And
wow.
yes, and then I heard last year that he was pardoned, and I was like, that's crazy.
That is
And then they caught him with his laptop still open, because that was the only way that they could, capture all of the data. And I still like think about it sometimes before I fall asleep, about like whether it was just or not, his right to privacy and so on and so on. I don't know if he's my favorite per se, but probably something I was really fascinated by. But there are obviously like a lot of cyber warfare attacks that are very interesting. But like in terms of personalities, he's a very interesting personality, I think.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it started as more of physical crimes, and then as you've been thinking about the concept, it's evolving more into like a digital crimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm still laughing about the fact that we're thinking of the actual like Silk Road, like leading from China.
I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, I've never met someone like really interested in the Silk Road, the trading route.
Yeah.
I stayed on here for another 3 hours, just like regale us with the Silk Road.
It's really into trade.
It is very interesting because trade really shapes languages. So if you want to study languages, you need to study trade. You need to understand how it works and how it used to work. I studied with physical crimes, always loved languages, always liked the way that people talk and what do they mean and so on. When I studied criminology, I was like, serial killers are not that interesting, actually. What's very interesting is cyber criminology. So I'm going to go and do that because that's fascinating. And as we said in the beginning, I guess, of this episode, yeah, it's the real thing. You can always connect it to things that you see and that you experience yourself, which is great. But I'm going to ask you some questions. What would be one cyber myth that you would refute immediately to people?
Wow, a single cyber myth.
Yeah, just one. You have to choose just one. This is a test.
Okay. Here's one that I deal with on a daily basis right now. When I ask, security leaders, do you think people are bringing their own AI tools to work? Oftentimes I get a response that's like, actually, I don't have that problem. Maybe 50% of the time they'll say, I don't have that problem because I blocked everything. No one's allowed to access AI tools at work. And while that's great on paper, and certainly for highly regulated industries, that's probably the right approach, honestly, is like, we don't want people messing around with DeepSeek day one or OpenClaw day one. KPMG had data at the end of last year that said already 60% of US employees are hiding their AI usage from their employers. And I'll tell you, anecdotally speaking, I think we all know this, right? Because we're doing it probably. All my closest CISO friends are like the first ones to say, oh, I have my personal laptop right here, right? And I'm typing away at that. So sorry, friends. But I think anecdotally speaking, what's happening in organizations right now in New York, a lot of my friends here that are lawyers, all their companies bought Harvey AI, which is an AI software that's supposed to be private to the organization. They have their own proprietary stuff that makes e-discovery better, all that kind of stuff. But it's not better than Claude. So my friends are like, I just use Claude. And so I think if we're honest with ourselves, the truth is that the rate of change of technology is so high right now, and these tools are really changing the way people do their jobs. And we can't ignore that just because we try to block things, that people aren't experimenting away. And by the way, that could be great for organizations. It is great for organizations. Like, our developers finding a new tool and then 3xing their speed. The real inhibitor to our business is that we find like that developer didn't tell the rest of our team, like, hey, I found a cool new thing. And so I think myth, that we have everything locked down, that nobody's playing around with some of this cool new technology that's out there. Reality, oh my God, it's way scarier than we think, but it's also very exciting. And solution, I would like to throw a cute little Maro buddy in the ring as a way to think about and visualize, hey, this is what people are doing. Why don't we take a kind of softer approach to showing them how they should be using these tools? And data governance, like you said, Annika, that's not, hey, we cut everything off at the network level, because that's never worked.
Yeah, I think a really good comparison to what you said about how you cutting people off doesn't stop them is, I don't know if you've heard about this, but in Australia, they recently banned under 16s from using social media.
Yeah.
And it has not worked.
Oh, really? Wait, I want to hear more. I've been wondering about this.
So it got really rushed through Parliament as these things always do. And and the government will go, oh, we've got this great idea. We're going to stop kids from using social media, which, in theory, okay, that's a good idea. Kids probably shouldn't be on social media, right? There's a lot of stuff on there they shouldn't be seeing. But in reality, you also need the tech companies to comply with those regulations as well, right? And I was asking someone at work the other day who has kids. One of his daughters is under 16, and I said, oh, is she off all these platforms? Is she off TikTok and Instagram and stuff? And he goes, nah, she's still on all of them. And I'm like, wait, what?
So the average person's a pretty good hacker, right? So how is a teenager hacking and using social media now in Australia?
Yeah, so one way, which is very easy, is that they use facial recognition to basically try and determine how old the person is. And so, especially for girls, all they're doing is putting on some makeup, and, and then they go, yeah, you're over 16.
Yeah, it's true.
No way. That's the protection, is a guess at your age?
Yeah, so I used to work for a data analytics vendor, and it's actually insane how much data companies have on you. And essentially from all this data, they're trying to figure out your age and who do you talk to online? Oh, you talk to other 16-year-olds, so you must be 16. I am very salty about it because my Substack, I can't go to my Substack account. They're asking me to verify my age because I didn't want to put my picture in there, when I created it. So I just had an AI generated photo. And now I can't go to my Substack and I'm refusing to put my ID on it. And yeah,
so the target audience hasn't been blocked, and now Annika can't use her Substack.
Hey, they did it. Good job, guys.
Yay, you succeeded.
You stopped a very dangerous person from accessing it.
Yeah, I guess I'll just make another account or something. Yeah, it's all right.
Wait, so what age did they think your AI generated photo was?
They don't
tell you?
So funny. But I wrote an article about dating apps and the dangers of dating, and there was quite a lot of things that you would think an adult person would write about, but okay.
You're very advanced.
Yeah,
that's actually hilarious. They think you're like a 12-year-old that watches Gossip Girl or something, and something like that. They're like, this person's talking about dating column. It's like a dating column.
Yeah. It was talking about the algorithms of dating apps, and I think this is the dating columns of nowadays. Sex in the City. Carrie will be like, "Why does the algorithm hate me?"
They should do it. They should do a revamp of Sex in the City in the AI age.
Yeah.
It'll be a boring show when you're just watching agents communicate with each other. Actually, maybe that'd be really entertaining. I remember watching early on this was the last election. I remember watching two agents on Twitch with skins. It was a 24/7 debate between Obama and Trump. Excuse me, between Biden and Trump, and the two agents would just respond to each other, and this was streaming 24/7. And so it would just be agent to agent, right? Or I don't even think they were agents. They were just chatbots at the time with some kind of voice, and it's probably 11 labs, but. I don't know. Maybe that's the future of TV. Just let's make room and abuse them and see who falls in love.
I don't know. I heard an interview with Sam Altman, and he said that he doesn't think that. But also he also runs OpenAI, so I don't know how much to believe him. But he was saying that he doesn't think that, for example, sports will ever be replaced. Actual athletes will ever be replaced by bots running around on a field or something, because he's like, why would people want to watch that? I think there'd be a novelty to seeing that. And I think I'm sure there would be niche group of people who would be into that kind of stuff. But I kind of agree. I think for the most part, because like, why do we watch sport? Because we want to see the ability of the human body to be able to do things that most people will never be able to do, right?
I mean, it's kind of our weakness that makes it fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. And humans make mistakes. Like you know, if you watch AFL, for example, like AFL players don't kick every goal. Oh, sorry, I should probably explain what AFL is.
I have no idea what that means, but I know less about that.
In football rules, it's kind of like Quidditch.
Wait, what? How is it anything like Quidditch?
That's how I see it. That's how when I moved to Australia and I saw massive poles, they're massive long poles, like 3 of them. That's immediately what I thought.
Yeah, but Quidditch is round holes. You have to get the ball through the hole.
Yeah, well, the hole is missing. Apart from that, it's the same.
Anyway, you have to understand that there's a 90% higher chance I'll know a fictional sport than a real one. So that was a good comparison for me.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. You're all about the books.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's
like fish corn. AI can't do that.
Exactly. Well, like, we don't want AI to find the fish for us, although I guess maybe we would if we got desperate.
I would. I want to drink as the AI finds the fish, and then I'll take. We can grill it. But remember when the Olympics with the breakdancing with the person from Australia? Who was going to watch breakdancing? But that person, that was the most popular sport of that. I'm not saying this is actually true, but I was tuning in for that, not for whatever other sport. Summer Olympics.
Yeah, ray gun, wasn't it? Was it ray gun? Yeah. That was a wild time.
Yeah, but maybe ray gun and Sam Altman are right. Maybe ray gun is the evidence. That I've always thought, because as a non-sports person, it's entertainment, right? I'm not tuning in to see the person. Personally, I'm not tuning in to really see the person who can jump this. I'm like, this person became a meme, because of they were acting like a kangaroo, and that's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sports is a form of entertainment at the end of the day, and like people love watching sports bloopers, people falling over or running into a pole, or I don't know, like F1 drivers like driving off the road and crashing. I don't know why people are so into that. But
yeah, people are attracted. Hey, people are attracted to all kinds of deathly situations, like Annika.
I live on the edge.
I get up at 5 a.m. for podcast recordings.
Oh, I should say now. I should already say now. Apologies to everyone that has to listen to this and to YouTube, because you woke up at 4:30 a.m. to start this, which I sincerely appreciate, but didn't realize until I checked the time, and I was like horrified. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
That's okay. Maybe next time, open your bloody calendar up later.
No, next time we'll trade. Next time I'll do it like 1 a.m. for me, whatever time that is for you.
But that's actually probably better, because if you stay up late, you just stay awake.
All right. If you want more unhinged takes, then I'll be available at 1 a.m. Wait, I do have one. I have another. I was thinking about the myths. This is I don't know if this is an American myth. I want to get your guys' take. This is more like a hot take than a myth. I would say regulation on AI is good. Is that something you guys agree with? Like state and federal legislation.
Wait, but is that a myth, or are you saying?
No, this is a hot take. No. I caveat it at the top. I don't think this is a myth. I will say the U.S. This is a hot topic right now.
A hot take is that the AI regulation is good. Is that
AI
what you said?
Most people in the U.S. don't think that, but your hot take is that it's good. Yeah.
Maybe I don't have a good read. I mean, I think, we were just talking about how governments are so slow, and then they'll push out a bill like the age verification bill, and then it doesn't produce the effects you wanted. So there's also that side, right? Like the ability for the bill to do what the government wants it to do, or for legislation to solve, is usually pretty low. So I think it tends to get this rap where it's like, you're out of touch. Let's let the free market solve. What I'm checking against is I still think AI regulation good, even if it's misguided, misplaced. Is it totally effective? What do you guys think?
That's fascinating. So from a criminal justice perspective, especially like the US and Australia and so on, we have what the criminologists call the Western adversarial criminal justice system. It's focused on finding the offender. It's focused on the bad guy. We are here to catch the bad guys, run after them, put them in the prison, take their rights away. You can't really do this in cyber very much. There is no villain anymore, if you think about that. who is your villain? Is it your employee that is trying to do the good thing and productive thing and using a tool that enhances their work performance, inadvertently put some sensitive data? I would say most of the people that have caused data breaches did not do so maliciously. And so how do we adapt a system that is focused on finding the bad guy or the bad gal, let's not discriminate, from that to let's protect, people on an individual level. So, but I agree that regulation on AI is good because at least let's try and do something rather than not try at all.
Yeah, I think if you look at the recent example of what happened with Anthropic and the Department of War, that's probably a good example of where, in my head, this is how I see it. If we use AI for things like mass surveillance and what was the other thing that they didn't want to do? I think it was like for making autonomous weapons. Yeah. I just think if we do that, then we're just as bad as China. We're just as bad as our adversaries. So how can we get on our high horse and say that we use AI for more morally correct purposes, right? So I think it's a really murky area. Like you said, by the time if regulation actually comes in that does do anything, it'll probably be too late.
Yeah. Well, oh my God, too many interesting things from both your perspectives. So first of all, that criminal justice theory thing is so wild. I hadn't thought about that. But I think, the White House released their cybersecurity strategy recently, our White House. And
we don't have a White House.
Yeah, but there's no other White House.
Sorry. I was being inclusive to the entire world. I don't know if others have White Houses. I don't know.
Okay.
I just meant to say it's not like the White House is a global institution or something. But so the White House released the cybersecurity strategy, and one of the points was kind of almost hinting at closer to hackback than anything that we've ever gotten close to as a country. Because to your point, Annika, previous to this point, asymmetric warfare happened because we don't have a national response to small businesses getting hacked or even Las Vegas casinos getting hacked. I'm sure that the CIA is doing things in the background, but externally speaking, from a PR perspective, we're not condemning it in the way that we say, oh, we're coming after you and we're arresting people in China, right? In the People's Liberation Army. And then I had never thought about what you said about, and therefore we look for the offenders internally, which I guess ties us back to the human risk issue, right? Because these are all systemic issues, like you said. Usually people are irrational locally, and then they're irrational when you look high enough, or at least that's the way it seems. So that's fascinating. And then to your point, anyway, the reason I raised this question, I think in the US right now, what we're seeing is there's certain AI laws being drawn up that are state-led, and there's actual kind of battle that's happening under the surface between what the federal government wants and what the state wants. And part of that is because private interest is so strong in the United States that the feds are let's not put any AI legislation. They almost passed a section of, I don't know if it was the big beautiful bill that said there should be no AI legislation passed against AI for the next 10 years, which got struck. But even the issues that they're focused on, which I'm curious from your guys' perspective about, is our red states are focused on children and their access to AI and believing these are real things. They're scared about deepfakes. And blue states are focused on discrimination. So, to your point, Annie-Mei, how do we take a black box in the system and then say, you make an important decision? Yes, sending a missile is one thing, but what about it's reading resumes? And then you find out 6 months later, you haven't interviewed a single woman, and you go, oops, that's not my fault. That's our AI's fault, right? There's no good recourse to that. So our country's focused on different AI issues almost. And I'm curious, and both have reasons for putting legislation, both also have reasons to not want to control it. So it's a really fun time. I'm curious if there's a reflection of that in Australia too, different reasons to control AI, and if the public and or the government thinks they're good and bad for different reasons.
Well, I think it's different here because our states aren't as independent from the federal government as in the US. So we do have state laws, but it's quite different, I would say, to the US. But then I guess also on the other hand, we saw during COVID that the states could just do whatever they wanted. And they're like, yeah, we're going to close. Yeah, we're going to open. La, la, la. We don't care about everyone else. So I guess, it is kind of interesting from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, just in general, I guess technology, cybersecurity, and also AI now, and having sovereign AI capability is not strong in Australia as it is. So
we don't have our own AI.
Well, I was trying to be diplomatic. But there is actually no interest. And so if you're thinking about what are the election hot topics, right, that are run, and I always say this to people, I'll be like, I will really listen to the next party that comes up and says that they're focused on cyber, or they're focused on having a sovereign AI capability, especially with everything that is happening in the world. We are so reliant on our partners provide for us, especially in the age of AI. So for Australia, there are attempts to create some kind of AI regulation, both federally, and I think there are a lot of privacy laws that are state-based that have their own kind of AI clauses that came out. I think there was an AI in the Privacy Act that I think was updated 2 years ago. There was a clause around AI interviews and AI doing like automatic resume reading, and that companies need to disclose that they use AI to siphon through employees and so on. But it's very slow. And I think especially if you're reliant on other countries for AI, you definitely want to have some controls and measures in place. So it's a very different kind of, worms.
Yeah, we're basically completely reliant on big tech, like US tech. Compared to the US, the Australian government doesn't incentivize small business at all. Like, small businesses don't succeed in Australia, and that's just a fact. Any of our companies that have done well is because they've gone overseas. So if you look at Canva, if you look at Atlassian, they've had to go, I think they both went to the US in order to get investment, because Australian investors are very risk averse, and so they're unwilling to put their money, they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is, basically.
But this sounds like an open call for your guys' next startup, Sovereign AI.
Yeah.
In Australia. What would the name of it be?
The first thing came to mind was like AI for good, and I was like, no, that's so bad.
AIFG. Yeah, the acronyms are getting crazy.
AIFG or AI number 4G.
AI4G for Australia. AI4G4A.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have the energy for that.
I think it's going to be very difficult. I'm not going to lie. If people are not talking about it on the streets, if people are not talking about it, bringing it up every day, then people won't think about it when they're talking about elections. Then politicians won't talk about it. Then the media won't talk about it. It won't happen. There needs to be some kind of a movement, some kind of a shift for that to happen. And I'm just really hoping it will be like a positive shift rather than a negative shift where something happens, we're cut off from the rest of the world, not being able to use our AI productivity tools, or other tools like identification tools. And then we will need to understand that we need to create our own sovereign capability. Everyone I talk to, I'll be like, hey, sovereign AI, that would be so good. Or, sovereign, like something like identification, authentication, etc. Relying on something that we can host here that is ours would be good in terms of prices. So we'll see.
I'm sure you can offer from the United States. China would be happy to let you use their AI models, so there's always.
I'm sure they would.
I'm sure.
I think we can safely say China's infiltrated enough of Australia, but I guess probably the same could be said for the US as well. Yeah. But anyway, I guess we should probably wrap up. We have been talking for quite some time, but yeah, no, it's been a really interesting discussion, and I feel like you've also interviewed us, Jadon.
I don't know how these are supposed to go, but this was super fun.
Oh, that's good. I mean, it's always good to have a fresh perspective.
Well, now I know Annika. I was, if we hopped off this call and I didn't know anymore, I've never learned about the Silk Road, where to find the best serial killers in the United States, criminal, how to apply, criminal justice lens to the way we blame our employees. Cool shit.
I was also going to say, I noticed on your LinkedIn page, one of your skills listed is tequila.
Yeah, that's.
Explain that.
When I was like a child, I think. Well, you used to be able to. Can you still create skills on LinkedIn?
I think so. I don't know. I haven't done it for a while. Yeah.
Okay. Here's my side of the story. I think when we were this was like when I was like high school, maybe or college. Whenever I was first told you need to have a LinkedIn, I didn't really understand what LinkedIn would become. It felt like just another social media platform. And then it was like, you can create any skills you want. And I was like, great. I remember adding tequila and martial arts. And then I never had real skills on there. And I never got into the loop of like, endorse me, please. So I've never received an endorsement on LinkedIn for it was great working with you on that project. every so often people like you know, will look at it and be like, lol, I added to tequila, which only has like, I'm not the best in the world at tequila, I guess. But yeah, I've
Yeah.
5 endorsements in 10 years or whatever. So
Yeah. Well, I think you did take us to a tequila place, or maybe it wasn't a tequila bar, but you took us to a bar where we drank tequila.
yeah. No, I was at some point in my life incredibly passionate about tequila and mezcal, but I don't know why, to the extent that it would be on my LinkedIn. I don't remember what headspace I was in to do that, but
I
it
think I
seemed
just
fun.
like the fact that you've just kept it. You've just kept it there.
Yeah.
Hey, this is who I am. It looks like I have more endorsements for martial arts than public speaking, so and more, far more than my technical. Well, I haven't looked at this in literally a decade plus. So, all right, thanks for telling me I need to audit my LinkedIn, but I'm not changing that. Those are my top skills.
No, you should definitely keep it. Those are some unique skills, you know.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if in Australia, like if you did it in the time that they have banned, you know, kids away from the social media, they will ban you from LinkedIn, being like, his skills are tequila and martial arts. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
This guy is not only probably 18. Is this guy Chinese and, you know, like an agent? I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, you're banned.
Did you have it on there when that sales guy recommended you to work at that place as in an internship? Like, I'd laugh if he looked you up on LinkedIn and he's seen your skills. Tequila,
Actually,
martial
so
arts.
that's funny you say that, because you're bringing up a memory. One of the smartest people I've ever worked with at that company. Again, there were only a couple people. I remember his LinkedIn. He was brilliant, and his LinkedIn had his last job experience as like 4 completely random things. And being like a freshman, I was like, first of all, this is the most brilliant C program I've ever met in my life. He can pump out like a new kernel module and like with zero errors on compilation after coding for like 4 hours straight. He was nuts.
He's an AI bot.
Sorry?
He's an AI bot.
Yeah, exactly. But then his LinkedIn was a complete joke. And I remember thinking like, that is so cool. Not that this was related, but certainly that's where my headspace was at the time. I was like, you know, you can prove you're great at writing code without, it doesn't matter what your LinkedIn says. Some of that ideal has followed me into later adulthood where I don't really care. And in fact, as you know, Annie-Mei, I do love tequila, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
real.
not a lie.
It's real. It's not a lie.
I just
But
imagine a thesis someone did, and it's like the correlation between someone's LinkedIn page and the quality of the code that they write.
Well, that goes back to that old Balmer peak, the famous like some alcohol makes you a better programmer until it reaches a peak and then you're
Oh, true. Yeah, there's like that optimal level. Yeah,
right.
and then if you go too far, then it all goes downhill.
Like speaking another language too, you know, it feels way more comfortable after.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, like I can speak any language when I've had a few drinks. I mean, not well, but I'll try.
It sounds so good in your head, right? You're like, I'm really rolling with this.
Yeah.
My Chinese has never sounded better. Yeah.
No, but it's true. Like, as someone who had to study a lot of languages, you know, for moving and then just a language buff, like, if you think in the language, if you're giving it a truly like a good go, and if you have the courage to speak it, that's probably like the best way to learn it, rather than just, oh, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Yeah. There is a logic to that.
So are you all adding skills to your LinkedIn then? Sounds like it's a skill. That's an important skill then for language
Need to
learning.
add
And that's for cybersecurity.
Yeah, drunk French, drunk, you know, Portuguese with Brazilian accent. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being in a taxi, I think in France, and I couldn't, like, the dude couldn't speak any English, and he's trying to talk to us, and my friend's Swedish, and I was trying to speak to him in Spanish because at least I know some Spanish. He didn't know any Spanish, and then she's trying to talk to him in Swedish. So we're all having a conversation in like 3 different languages, and no one's like actually answering any questions.
Oh my God, that's transcendent. That's like Tower of Babel remade in the modern day.
Yeah, we had also just gone on like a tour of a champagne house, so we were pretty like drunk. I hope he wasn't though, because he was driving.
I gotta go, but you put champagne on your LinkedIn, I'll be your first endorsement.
Okay, all right. I'll add it. I'll add it today.
Thank you guys so much. This was really fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jadon. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you, if not at DEFCON, at some point soon in the future.
No, DEFCON. Well, love to see you guys there, Anik. I hope you can make your bucket list item work this year. And if not, I'll owe you guys, let's make it it'll be a 3 a.m. podcast. That way, we can make this reciprocal, but really appreciate it. Great talking to you.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure to speak to you. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Lost in Siberia, everyone.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.